So London Marathon is just over 3 weeks away and I've learned some big lessons during this training block. So 2023 was probably my best year in running. In the 10 years I've been running, it was the most consistent and of course injury-free, which is massive. This year, however, has been quite the opposite. This training block for London Marathon has been so up and down, it's been unbelievable. But there are some big lessons that I've learned during this training block that I want to share with you guys. So without further ado, I'm just going to get straight into these. Now, illness is going to be the biggest one for me to cover, and that'll be the last point because there's so much to go into. But the first one I want to highlight is the medium long run is definitely going to be sticking around in future training blocks. So last training block, I used the medium long run. My coach threw it in there. It's not something I'd ever used before in my marathon training. My structure tended to be a session on a Tuesday and a Thursday and then a long run workout, or however, I might have just done one workout in the week and then a long run workout, but I've never incorporated a medium long run. And for me, it counted as kind of like half a session. It wasn't quite an easy run, meaning I just do like one session and one long run workout, but it wasn't too much where I've in the past done 2 midweek sessions and a long run workout. I find the medium long run gives that perfect balance so that I can get some good work in time on feet, usually at a steady effort. So it feels like I kind of work, but don't put my body through the ringer so that I'm still okay for my one session and still okay for my long run workout. I just feel it gives me bang for my buck. I feel like I improve massively, especially if I do them at a steady effort. So after a successful introduction into them last training block, I can safely say that for what I have been able to do during this one, it has definitely salvaged some kind of fitness for me during London. And number 2, super shoes are not my friend in training. Now, since the beginning of this training block, which I've been documenting for 20 weeks, the first 8 weeks were kind of extending what we'd done in the summer, so still some shorter, faster 10k style workouts, but one was more tempo based on the trails and one was out on the concrete. The trail workouts, I tended to use my Kinvara 14. The more concrete based workouts were the On Cloudboom Echo 3 and some other plated shoes that I was dabbling with, and that was fine because those workouts were nice and short. I wasn't in the shoes for too long, and I kind of got the recovery benefits that you'd expect from the super shoes. I was able to stack up some really good early weeks. However, when things changed and things started to extend and the workouts got longer and I started to use them in my long run workouts, that's when I started getting some issues. If you've seen the recent, or no, actually you won't have done, you'll see it tomorrow. You'll see that my Achilles and calf is taped up on my right hand side. It's nothing particularly to worry about. It's just a little bit of aggravation at the base of the Achilles. And this all started from when I used the Vaporfly 3s in the 16 miles at marathon pace I did about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Now, reason being, I feel like those shoes at the time, I was getting some plantar fascia aggravation and that kind of went up the Achilles. And since then, I've not quite been able to shift it. In the past, when I've done workouts in super shoes, I've kind of tended to leave it into the last 3 or 4 weeks of marathon training. And I often do find that if I do too many long run workouts in them, my calf can aggravate. So I do tend to just save it for those last few weeks where it doesn't do too much damage. However, I feel because I've been using them so far before the marathon, it has built up a bit of an aggravation in that area, which means I'm just having to be slightly more careful and slightly more cautious into these last few weeks. That's where my Brooks Hyperion Max has come into play. That's exactly why I bought a second pair to save myself from using super shoes. So in these last few weeks, that's pretty much exclusively what I'll be using. Now, I genuinely can't stress this one enough, but the faster than marathon pace work that I've been putting into my training has probably helped me keep some relative level of fitness. Although I am nowhere near where I want to be, I feel like that faster work is definitely contributing to me being able to at least string something half decent together at the moment. What do I mean by that? Well, it's basically the workouts I'm doing midweek that are faster than marathon pace. So in years gone by, in previous marathon training blocks, I've always kind of done like marathon specific work and never really touched too much on the faster stuff, because I've always assumed that I wanted to be running more around marathon pace. But actually over the years my mindset's changed a lot, and I definitely do put more speed work in, and I have to say that that speed work is definitely still making what my old marathon pace was feel relatively achievable. It's something that I do with my athletes. I get questions about all the time. I'll put them in faster than marathon pace work too. The simple reason being it makes the marathon pace stuff feel easier. If we're still working faster than marathon pace, then hopefully all of those benefits will trickle down over the slower paces, and the easier paces will feel better, the steady paces will feel better, and marathon pace will feel better as well. So there is a lot more science behind it, but for me, I personally feel like that faster work has definitely allowed me to keep in touch with my marathon pace. And focusing on quality over quantity in the long runs, again, is something that I absolutely swear by. And again, in this block, I do feel like it's the one thing that has salvaged me. We've got the medium long runs, we've got that faster than marathon pace work, and those long run workouts have been an absolute godsend. Again, I haven't been able to do what I wanted to do for a lot of the block. However, what I have done has meant that I've at least got some kind of decent quality in there. Again, in my last London Marathon training block, I was doing some double threshold training, which is phenomenal, by the way, and I loved doing it. And then I was doing another workout, a marathon pace workout midweek. But on top of that, my long runs were just purely, I was going for time on feet at a steady pace, and I was not doing any long run workouts whatsoever. If I went back to that format, I would absolutely tweak things by doing my double threshold, a smaller, faster than marathon pace session, and then I would save my marathon pace work for the long run workouts. Absolutely, because in that block, I went straight in at 2.5 hours, 12 weeks out, and I had to consistently try and hit 2.5 hours up to 2 3/4 hours every single week. And when I didn't hit it, I'd be really frustrated. But I actually got to race day feeling pretty darn sluggish, because I didn't really do what I should have done in those long runs, which is put some quality miles in there. So this year, although I've done smaller long runs, more around the 2 hour to 2 hour 15 mark, there've been some good quality in there from what I've been able to. And again, I just feel it's contributed to me being able to hold some kind of decent marathon pace. And the fifth and final thing is not every single illness reacts in the same way as it has done in the past. I've picked up plenty of viruses before. I've had COVID, and I've dealt with higher heart rates, and I've just learned that my body kind of adapts over time, just like everybody's. It comes back down to normal. It just takes a few weeks or sometimes months to get back to normal. It really does depend, because these viruses attack different parts of our bodies. And of course, in this one that I've recently had, it was very much a respiratory virus. I got laryngitis off the back of it, and that happened twice over within the space of 4 weeks. But this one has been pretty darn savage. Let me just quickly recap what it was, and then I want to share with you what I think about it. Basically, 24th of January, about 10 or 11 or 12 days out from Barcelona, was the first workout I started to feel a little bit groggy, but I was still able to do it, and I still trained. At that point, my HRV started to go down, but I wasn't checking my HRV at all, because I don't like data and I don't like to look at it too much. That has kind of changed a little bit at the moment. I am keeping a track on it just to make sure that everything looks okay. But at the time, I just thought, another illness, I'll be okay soon. Carried on training for that week, got to the weekend long run, and I had to bail on that long run. I had to get picked up for the first time in 10 years. It's never happened before, but it did this time. That decline carried on down all the way to Barcelona. I got out to Barcelona and I was too ill to run the half marathon. Just a permanent temperature, feeling feverish. Although I was able to enjoy myself out there and it wasn't too bad, I permanently felt like a hot water bottle. I was just overheating all the goddamn time. It was so frustrating. Got back from Barcelona, HRV started to come up, heart rate started to come down. I slowly started to feel better, and I eased back into things with a very gentle, easy week. The week after that was again more easy stuff, and I think at that point I tried my first moderate or session, and it kind of went okay. I had to bail after 9K's worth of work, but I still got a decent amount done. I didn't feel great, but it was okay. And then I got to the long run, and I got the long run done, and I think that was 16 miles at marathon pace. And I was really chuffed with that. I thought that I was turning a corner. However, the week after that, the second virus hits, almost feels exactly the same again. and I'm back down again. Bearing in mind I'd already taken 9 or 10 straight days off over Barcelona with no running. I then decided after that to take another 5 days solid off running. So at this point I've had over 2 weeks off of running within the space of 3.5 weeks, just to try and let my body settle, or it might be 4 weeks, I can't exactly remember. And then after that one I start to climb back out the other side, and again starting with more easy stuff. And then I just got hit with a small blip, which was last Tuesday, where I didn't feel particularly well, but I do suspect that was the virus getting out of my system, because after that I've then been able to trend on the up and get some really good work done, and I'm finally feeling like myself again. Now, my general rule of thumb with illnesses, if I've got a bit of a virus or something like that, I do keep things easy, but I keep training. And the symptoms for me are, if it's head up, then I just tend to keep training. Like if it's in my nose, snotty, a bit throat, whatever, then that's fine. I tend to just kind of keep easy running. I don't do too much until I start to feel better again. If it's neck down, like in my chest, I just stop running. That's not doctor's advice, and that's not me telling you what to do. You should do what you want to do, and also consult a doctor. That's just what I've done over my 10 years of running. And to be honest with you, it's been a pretty darn good method. I've never really suffered any long-term issues, and it's always been something that's worked for me anyway in the past until now. And I would safely say that this virus that I've had, my immune system was clearly weakened after Barcelona. It really wiped me out massively. And then the second virus took hold. It took hold because I just started to increase the intensity again, got some good long run workouts, or got a good long run workout done, and I think my body was still in a very weakened state. Now, for me, that was a real shock to the system to have to take more time off. It was a bit frustrating, and I kind of knew over Barcelona that my London dreams had gone, because I had really not felt that bad in a very long time. But in this second period, I was like, right, I just need to throw in the towel now for any time goals that I was ever going to try and achieve, and just accept that you're going to London if you can get there in whatever shape you're going to do, and you're just going to run it and have an absolute blast. And now, coming out the other side of all of this, feeling much better and logging some good miles and some good workouts again, I'm extremely grateful for health, and I'm extremely grateful to slowly start to feel better, feel stronger, and feel more like myself. Obviously, fitness is way off where it was, but I am starting to feel like I can push a little bit more, and my body is responding nicely. Heart rate's coming down straight after runs, although it's elevated still on the run. That's just going to take some time. That's classic viral stuff for me anyway. It happened after COVID. It took a while to come down, and it's happened over previous illnesses before. So I'm not too worried about that. The warning sign for me was my heart rate was taking ages to come down after a run. Now within 10-15 minutes, it's back down into normal parameters. And again, that's another good reason that I know I'm slowly starting to feel better. So definitely the takeaway from this block, more than anything, is not only do I appreciate you guys, your concern, I really do appreciate all the comments. But for me, it's just a case of, right, you need to play the next one by ear. And if you do get really ill as you did in Barcelona, maybe just one easy week and then easing back into it isn't enough. Maybe it needs to be 2 or 3 easy weeks whilst your body builds back up to really get going again. So there we go. Those are my takeaways from my London Marathon training block. Obviously not ideal at all, but I am now feeling very grateful that at just over 3 weeks out, at least I've managed to get some kind of work done. I think when I look at my Strava now as well, it doesn't paint the full picture, because there is some good mileage in there. A lot of it, however, is easy mileage, and a lot of it was where I wasn't particularly feeling very well either. So for me, just moving forwards now, it's about completing this training block in as best health as I can, so that I'm ready to kick on into summer. So there we go. Those are my thoughts on this. I hope you enjoyed them. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you on the next one.